Welcome to our video lesson on equivalent fractions and fractions in simplest forms. You're going to be filling in your note as we go through this, so make sure that you're writing down what you need to. Let's start by talking about what equivalent fractions are. Equivalent fractions are just fractions that are equal, so fractions that are equal to each other. Some examples would be 1/2 and 2/4. You can make equivalent fractions by multiplying or dividing the numerator and the denominator, so the top part and the bottom part, by the same amount. So, let's do two examples. We're going to write two of fractions that are equivalent to 6/8. Well, in order to find a fraction that is equivalent to 6/8, we need to multiply or divide the numerator and the denominator by the same amount. Let's start by multiplying, and we're going to multiply the numerator times 3. So then I think what's 6 times 3? 6 times 3 is 18. Whatever I do to the numerator, I'm going to do the same thing to the denominator, so then I have 8 times 3. And my equivalent fraction is 18/24. But we've got one equivalent fraction, now we need two equivalent fractions. So this time, instead of multiplying, I'm going to divide because it says we can do either. So a fraction that would be equivalent to 6/8, well, I know we can divide both of them by 2 because they're both even numbers. So let's divide by 2. 6 divided by 2 gives 3. And then 8 divided by 2 is 4. So the fractions that are all equivalent to each other are 6/8, 18/24, and 3/4. Those all mean exactly the same thing. I suggest pausing the video now and trying to find equivalent fractions to 4/10 on your own. When you're finished, click play. You may get something that's different to mine, but for my equivalent fractions, I chose to first, with 4/10, start by dividing. So I figured, I know they're both even, let's divide both the numerator and the denominator by 2. Well, 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. So my first equivalent fraction is 2/5. For the next one, I decided to multiply. So I start with 4/10, and this time I'm going to multiply by 4. So 4 times 4 is 16, and then whatever I do to the numerator, I'm going to do to the denominator. So 10 times 4 is 40. So my two equivalent fractions, are 4/10, 2/5, and 16/40. You may have found different fractions that are equivalent to 4/10. There are a ton out there. If you want to double check, you could always ask me. But as long as you multiplied or divided the numerator and the denominator by the same amount, you have an equivalent fraction. Now we're going to talk about putting fractions into their simplest form. I know you've talked about this last year, so this should be a quick review for you. Let's start by talking about when a fraction is in its simplest form. A fraction is in its simplest form when the only common factor of the numerator and the denominator is 1. Our steps to putting a fraction into its simplest form, there are just two of them. The first step is to find the GCF, or the greatest common factor. And then divide the numerator and the denominator, so the top and the bottom, by the GCF. Okay, that seems pretty straightforward. We're going to do two examples together. I'm going to go to the next page. Okay, the first example is 20/28. We're going to focus on that one first, and I'm going to do it down over here. So, our first step of our two steps is to find the greatest common factor. We talked about this last semester. There's two methods you could use. You could use prime factorization and making a factor tree, or you can just list the factors. I list the factors. So I need to find I need to find the factors of 20 and 28. Let's start at 1. 1 is a factor of every number, so 1 is definitely a factor of 20. Okay, 2. Is 20 divisible by 2? Think of our divisibility rules. Yes, 20 is divisible by 2, so 2 goes down there. 3. Is 20 divisible by 3? No. 4. Yes. 5. Yes. 6. In order for it to be divisible by 6, it has to be divisible by 2 and 3. It's not divisible by 6 because it's not divisible by 3. 7, 8, and then I know that the only other one is 10, and then lastly 20. Okay, so those are my factors of 20. If you can't remember your divisibility rules or you're struggling with them, look up at the posters on the wall. They've got our divisibilities written there to help you. Okay, 28. Again, let's start with 1. 1 is always a factor. 28 is even, so definitely divisible by 2. It's not divisible by 3. It's divisible by 4, and it's 4 times 7, so I know it's also divisible by 7. What times 2 gives 28 is 2 times 14. And then lastly, 28. Okay, what is the greatest common factor of these two numbers? So 1's a factor, 2's a factor, 4's a factor, and that's it. So my greatest common factor is 4. Okay, I've got it. The next step is to divide both the numerator and the denominator by the greatest common factor. So we're going to divide both by 4. Well, 20 divided by 4 is 5, and 28 divided by 4 is 7. So, in simplest form, 20 28ths is 5/7. Alright, let's do one more example together. If you feel ready, please pause the video and try it on your own. After you've finished it, press play and check your answer. I'm just going to erase some of this work here so we have a little bit more space. Okay, again, my first step to find the simplest form of 16/40ths is to find my factors, my greatest common factor. Again, I'm going to use the listing factors method. 16 divisible by 1, yes. 2, yes. 4, 8, and then lastly 16. 40. 40 is a little bit longer. Divisible by 1, definitely. 2, yes. It's not divisible by 3. It's divisible by 4. It's divisible by 5. And it's 5 times 8 that gives 40. 4 times 10 gives 40. 2 times 20. And then lastly, 1 times 40. Okay, let's look at our factors here. Common factors. We've got 1, 2, 4, and 8. So our greatest common factor is 8. Last step, take your numerator and your denominator and divide them both by your common factor. So we're going to divide them both by 8. 16 divided by 8 is 2, and 40 divided by 8 is 5. So in simplest form, 16/40ths is actually 2/5. That's all for now. If you need to watch it again or double check any part, please feel free to rewind and double check. I'll talk to you later.